Hello, I'm Tiffany. Welcome to my quilting life in my fabric room. I'm waiting for this darn thing to work because I'm not sure it's even working. We will see in literally a second. It sure looks like it's on. Yep. I will in 2 seconds. Aha. There it is. I found it. All right. Hello, everybody. We're in my fabric room. The lighting is on this side of the room, not on that side of the room. So don't mind the powerful light right there. I'm pretty sure you can see that I'm at an ironing board with an iron and some fabric. And you could also see that there is a mattress behind me and a headboard. Don't mind that. It is literally covering the fabric shelves. But that's when we have guests. We just kind of flop the mattress down onto the ground and that's where people sleep. So we got snarky old lady here. Sandy is here. Mary, Muriel, Tracy, Muriel, sorry. Dawn, Cece. Hello, everybody. June. So I figured because I'd come live, say hi to you guys, hang out for a little bit. We never get to hang out in this room. I do, but you don't. So I'm organizing fabric. You know, you guys send me fabric in the mail, and then I have to organize it and put it in a place somewhere because I have OCD when it comes to my fabric and how I keep things. So I'm like, there's a word for it. I come in here about 30 minutes to an hour when I can. It's not every day. Sometimes it's every day, but it's when I can. And right now I can come in here for a little while before nap and get some more organized. Because let's just say I have piles to cut, I have piles to iron, and I have just piles of everything everywhere. Drawers sticking out of my remnants to cut down, and I'm just little by little getting things cleaned up in here. So I figured you guys can join me while I do this. So I'm just ironing, making my fabric nice and flat, and hanging out with you guys. Because why not? So that's what I'm doing. And you guys can just hang out with me while I sit here and chat. And you guys could ask me questions. You know, you can have it as a Q&A while we're here if you want. And, you know, just hang out and find things to chat about while I press and, you know, organize. I can tell you this. I was in here just a little while ago, and this Oliso is broken. So the little black thing does not go all the way in. And I have to manually turn this on and then get the black thing to come out and then push it all the way back in while I'm turning it off. Well, I don't know if I was paying attention to where the black thing was or if I was just in a mode. I actually just put my finger on the iron itself while it was hot and held it there like I thought I was pushing the black thing in, but I really wasn't. So I burnt my finger today. So I have a nice big circle on the front blistering up on my first finger.
Talking about Scott's new iron.
But Scott got himself a new iron for in the other room because the Iron Man does not like the Oliso irons. He is very picky about his iron. He wants a lightweight steam iron because I prefer steam, so I like it when he uses steam. He doesn't want a fancy iron. He just wants simple iron. Also, I made sure that I had no folds or creases in my fabric when I do this, by the way, if you're not sure what I'm doing here. I straighten it out and then fold it. And then I measure it by coming over here because I have a cutting table in here. And I go, oh, look, there's 22 inches here. So I fold it nicely. Oops, that's the wrong direction because everything on the shelf faces this way. I keep forgetting now that it's all on shelves. I fold it like this so that it's nicely seeable, and I put it in my pile of wherever 22 inches is. It's my half yard cuts, which are 18 to 23 inches worth of fabric, which is already stacked full. So I could fit, that's the last piece I think I can put in there on the shelf. All right, let's grab another piece of yardage. This one doesn't look more, this one's definitely not a half yard, so that's a good thing. Because my half yard cut shelf is full. This is what I do. I sit and iron it nice and flat. I am that OCD where I can't put the fabric away on shelves or in drawers or anything unless it's ironed. That is weird, right? Am I weird, or do you guys do that too? Because that'd be funny if it's not only me.
Do you ever use muslin?
Yes, I use muslin. I use muslin for tester blocks, or that's it, really. So, if you guys didn't know this trick, let's show you. Right here at the top, I hold the selvages like this. I did a video showing this. And you can see the wrinkle if it's sideways, but you still have the top lined up. Do you see how it's wrinkled like that? Okay. Well, it doesn't need to be that way. So you use your fingers, your thumb on one side, your middle finger on the other, and your first finger in the middle to align the fabric till it's straight, like this. And once you see no folds or creases, then I come back over here, keeping that exactly where it was, slide it down, and then I press a crease into it. I know I just have to press the crease into it. And then I fold this selvage up to that fold, lining that up with no folds or creases. And I'll show you right here. Once all those folds and creases are out, you can see that on the sides of my fabric, I literally have, because it was cut sideways, you could see the excess. So what I do, I know this is serious OCD here. I literally come over here and I cut that excess away like this so that I have nice straight cut pieces. So bad about this. I'm so bad. Like, I literally spend more time straightening fabric than I do anything else. And then see how much inches? There's 15 inches here. So this is going to go in my 1/3 yard cuts. So I fold it nicely and I take it over to my 1/3 yard cuts, which is 12 to 17 inches. And
When you trim a quilt after quilting it, if it doesn't fit on your cutting table, do you square all the corners, then cut the sides?
when I square a quilt, if it doesn't fit on my cutting,
After you're quilting it, if it doesn't fit on the table, on your cutting table, do you square the corners and then cut the sides?
I could fit, I can cut king size quilts on my cutting table very nicely. So I don't really have a problem with cutting them down, but I do square the corners sometimes. My own quilts, I don't. When I get client quilts in and I'm trimming the finished client quilt coming off of the frame when they request the trim service, or if they're getting binding, because some of them pay for binding, then yes, I will trim all 4 corners and then come back and straighten the sides. But I can fit really large quilts because they fold over one side and the other of my table. I don't have the table against the wall or anything, so it helps having just a floating table for trimming quilts. Welcome everybody that's joining in. We're just hanging out in the fabric room today while I get all this yardage situated.
Do you ever empty any of your bins?
I do empty bins, yes. And then I refill them back up again. So I straighten this up. Same procedure as I do any other yardage, even if it's a solid. Slightly lay it without folding or bending or creasing any of the fabric. And then I fold the other side up to it. This looks like almost a yard. I'm going to hope that this is a yard so that I can bolt it up, put it on the solid shelf. But you never know. And yes, I fold that second crease into it. When I make blocks and stuff and cut things out, at least everything's nice now. So the only thing I do have to do is fold out creases. But, you know, Oh man, that is only 33 inches. So this goes in my 3/4 yard pile.
Do you sort according to color as well, or only size?
Size. I do not sort by color. I want to take everything off the shelves and sort by color and leave it like that for a year and see how it helps me, but I have a feeling it's not going to be any different than having it all smushed away in the piles that I have it smushed in, because I definitely have smushed fabric piles. And I like seeing all my florals are together, stripes are together, leaves are together, polka dots are together. Giant floral is separate from little floral. I'm trying to think. I have little bitty like prints where it has like little bitty dots. I have all my batiks together, and those are in color order, but the color is mainly all purple because I collect purple batiks. I don't collect them. I use them, but I like them more so much that I don't cut them as often. I have American fabrics together, like American flags and, you know, things that say patriotic. That's the word. Thank you, Scotty. I keep those kind of things together. So they're in groupings, stripes, polka dots, flowers, blah, blah, blah. So that's about the order that they are in. But I do want to try putting all those sections in color order. So all my florals from red to whatever, I'm going to try it and see what happens. But right now the mattress is in the way, so I kind of can't do any of that.
Do you separate all your fat quarter bundles?
I do. So this dresser right here is fat quarters and some bundles down towards the bottom drawers, and then fat quarter bundles are behind you on a shelf. The actual big tall bundles, those are on the shelf. The small bundles are in this dresser. So yes, I do separate my fat quarter bundles. And then I create my own little fat quarter bundles too with fabrics that I think go together, because people donate me fabric. And what I end up doing is, say someone donated me something that was Robert Kaufman, okay? We're just using that brand. And it was a designer and they all look similar and they came from different people. I start putting those in groupings. So, you know, that brand is all together, and then so on and so forth. So I try to keep them all together. If someone donates me a bunch of Tula, well, Tula has its own piles. Tula stays completely separate from everything else. I have a Tula drawer, 2 drawers down on the bottom of this unit with the one sticking out right now. And then I have 2 boxes of Tula under the cutting desk because they don't have a home just yet. Eventually, I will have a Tula shelf. 1 shelf dedicated to Tula. Oh, let's fold this way. Due to the fact that that edge needs to be chopped off. So this is a batik here.
Separate them into color or pattern? Talking about your fat quarter bundles.
My fat quarter bundles are, here is all like novelty prints in this one. So they're in by novelty. And then these ones are the bundles. So you can see, oops, they're bundles, little bundles. And I'm throwing them at the same time. So this one has little bundles or fabrics that go together. Like I said, I've been putting groupings together. So we'll just pull one grouping out so that you can see. I try to keep them together. So different people will send me different stuff. So here, all this looks like it goes together. So I kept it together, you know? So I try to keep them together, but not at the same time, if that makes any sense. They probably aren't the same fabric line. Maybe they are, but they are all in the same spot. And I also fold them a certain way so that they fit in here, although the piles are now exceeding the nicely foldedness.
Do you
yeah.
organize the larger cuts by color?
I do not organize my larger cuts by color either. Nothing is organized by color except for batiks in here. All right, so I like my yardage put on the shelf nicely. So see all this hanging off the end? I'm going to lop that off. And then it goes into cutting it into squares or whatever I can get out of it, which I'll show you in 2 seconds. I'll move the camera.
Why do you press the folds? Don't you have to press those out when you cut the fabric?
Not really. I can press the folds. I do not always have to cut them out. It depends on what I'm making. Sometimes I can make something that needs 10-inch squares and I'll just cut it while it's still on the fold. And then later that folded part that's left over goes in my cut down piles. Oh, I forgot to measure this. This is 22 inches-ish, but this is a batik, so it doesn't really matter because it has its own place in this room. So batiks get folded nicely. And then I have these lovely bins right here. That one's full already. Let's see if I have room in this one. Oh, I have no room in that one. I have a little bit of room in that one. There we go. And then batiks go in their scraps, whatever size they are, from fat quarters on up. They all have their own bin. I try to keep most things separate. This is a 108 here. So this could be table runner backing right here. So this, because it's such a large, long piece that could be used as a table runner, has its own drawers. I call it my need to cut remnants. I may or may not cut it down into 5-inch squares, 10-inch squares, blah, blah, blah. But I still press it and still fold it nicely. I need a second big, huge ironing board for this room, I swear.
Then you'd have no room to walk in this.
Yeah, then there'd be no room to walk, Scott said. Of course there wouldn't be. This room is already cram-packed, crowded. It's only because the mattress is in here.
I told him it's going up for sale.
Yeah. I told Scott to just sell it. We have an air mattress for when we have company, so we really don't need to keep the regular mattress. But I had 2 mattresses on my bed before I got the thing that lifts it up and down in my bedroom after I had my surgery.
Why wouldn't you use that piece of iron for backing?
I could use it for backing of table runners because it's a long, skinny piece, and I really won't get much out of it if I press it or sew it together. If that makes any sense. I won't get much out of it. Sewing it together, I'll get maybe a baby quilt's worth. So I'd rather just have this already long, skinny piece for table runners.
I'm 6 feet tall. What's the best height for cutting and sewing?
6 feet tall, the best table height for cutting and sewing. I wouldn't know because I'm only 5'2.5". I would say for cutting you need a bar height table because I did really good when I had my bar height table in the house. But we got rid of those because they took up too much space. I had way too many tables in my room.
Do you break up the fat quarter bundle too, or do you keep them together to make quilts with the whole fat quarter?
I keep the fat quarter bundles together to make quilts with the matching fabrics. All right, so this 108 gets folded like this, and it goes in this drawer. That's why the drawer is open, so that I can put stuff that can be quilt backs in that one. All right, this has definitely got to be a 1-yard cut here. It looks like it. Oh no, the bottom is all lopped off. So that means it's missing like a couple inches. Yep, it's missing a little bit. So this will go in my super large chunk piece because this can be a baby quilt's worth. So again, I just fold it and put it in the drawer. So let me show you guys real quick what I do with my cut downs. 2 seconds, the camera is going to move. Camera is going to move. Come on, right there. So in the process, this is the things that I cut off because it was, people send me scraps, and I'll take this right here, and this looks like it will get 4-inch squares. So I'll cut 4-inch squares from this piece because it's a pretty long piece. Okay, and once I cut those squares, right here we have, this is just temporary till they go in their boxes, 1-inch squares, 2-inch squares, 1.5-inch squares, and then I have my solids in here and some 2.5 right here. And then on this side, I have 10-inch squares, so just all sorts of random 10-inch squares because I can just come in here and make blocks. Then I cut 3-inch by 5-inch or 3.5 by 5-inch. I cut both of those. Here's my 3.5, 2.5, 3.5 by 5, 5-inch squares, 4.5-inch squares, 4-inch and 3-inch. And again, obviously 2.5 and everything is over here. But then I just cut from here. I have rulers in here so that I can cut, although I don't really like omnigrid rulers because they're a little bit harder to read. But I also cut 2.5-inch strips and 1.5-inch strips and random width of fabric or random widths strips that are full length selvage to selvage. And then I have my strings bin. I also cut strings, but I have all this right here to go through, all that to fold up. That box has stuff already folded. Those quilts need to be put away. Oh, I also cut, here's my newest thing because of this darn book that was sent to me. Yeah, some of it's sent to me, some of it I already had. This book that was sent to me, I opened it in a mail opening. The sizes in there, 4.5 by 2.5, 6.5 by 2.5, and 6.5-inch squares. So I'm now going to be able to make the blocks from this book. And I also have 6-inch squares because I make 4 at a time flying geese with 6-inch squares. So yeah, I really have a lot of piles in here that go to a lot of things. Let's put you guys back in the mount. Oops, right there. Yeah, this organization, now all these cuts that I cut, they all have bins in the other room, except for the 5-inch squares. That's those 2 boxes that all this is sitting on. But I need more bins now to put my new found cuts of the 6.5 by 2.5, 4.5 by 2.5, and 6.5-inch squares. I need bins for those. All right, some more stuff piled up. Let's pull yardage out of here first. Here's a nice big yardage cut. Just have to open it up.
How do you decide whether to cut a scrap into squares rather than strips?
Because what helps me decide is the fact that my string bin is already full. So that's what helps me decide. When the string bin gets full, then I just stick with cutting squares. Because those bins aren't that full, so. Put that up there so I can see.
What is the
B, what?
maybe she meant book?
Oh, the book is, yep. Hold on, let me pull it back out. This book is called Magic Numbers Quilting. Oh, the lighting sucks right here. Magic Numbers Quilting. We're going to tip this down. There we go. The lighting is better that way. By use your stash, use your scraps, makes quilt fast and easy. Magic Numbers Quilting. 30 easy blocks from your fabric stash. Malgorza Banjo. A 4 at a time flying geese video. I don't actually think I do have a video for that. And I make them all the time too. I should make a video. I got to download a new chart though to be able to show you guys how it's done. That way this looks like it's already straight. So I'm going to press it as is, this way. Come on. This is also not 42 wide or 44 wide. It's actually bigger, it seems. And some of you out there might even recognize, or one of you, whoever sent me this, might even recognize it and go, oh, I sent her that. I wonder what she's going to use it for. Well, right now, it's just going to get put on my shelf.
What's the part on the end of the ironing board?
Oh, the end of the ironing board is actually to hold the iron. But I'm not a left-hand grabber, and I'm not standing on the opposite side because my room is kind of a mess. So it's an iron holder. That way all you have to do is put it on the holder. And you don't have to worry about tipping it over. All right, now to fold it this way. Lining that fold up. Yeah, this is definitely like a 50-something wide, which is good because that can be used on baby quilts. So this has its own area on the shelves for this wide fabrics. And yes, I'm still pressing a crease into it. Since I don't have room right now to put that iron up, I'm going to show you guys the bolting. Where is this and my yardstick? Because I actually don't know how much is here. I can just sit right there for 2 seconds. We're going to measure this. We're also going to see how wide it is. What is, Scotty, what's 14 times 4? Too big of a number? Oh.
A big number.
Calculator.
How do you keep your backing fabric on bolts or folded?
I keep it on bolts. 14 times 4 is 56-inch wide fabric. That's what this is.
Yep, there you go. All the fans.
Again, we don't do math. I don't, at least. Scott knows math. Not offhand, though. Big numbers. He has to think about it. All right. So we have 1 yard. And this is just an approximate measurement, only because I can't get a good measurement. We have 2 yards and right there. 2 yards and 9 inches. So 2 1/4 yards. So I write on this little sticky note, 56 wide, right? That was the number?
Yes.
2 1/4 yard. And then I put the sticky note on here to where it sticks up off the top. My little sticky note thing, put my yardstick right there. And then I bolt it up on the cardboard. But I'm going to leave the cardboard in here so that it can go on the shelf, but I'm going to push the cardboard towards the bottom so that it stands up on the shelf. Actually, it might not. It might be too tall. Let's see. Is it too tall? Oh, yeah, it's too tall. So it's going to have to go with regular bolted fabrics, which are not right here. That's just going to go right there for now. All right. Next. This is 1 yard right here. I can tell just by looking at it. Yep, 1 yard. And it's already neatly, just needs to be pressed. And this is definitely a 95. So this is what I would consider a vintage print. If it was from when I was a teenager, it's vintage. I have a whole slew of vintage prints from the 60s, 70s, 80s, and now 90s. Huh?
What's your next project?
My next project will be starting on the first Thursday of the month for Breakfast at Tiffany's. We're going to be starting something new. I haven't posted the info on that yet because I'm a little behind on doing that. I need to post it though so that you guys can get it so you can start sewing along with me. 1 yard. So I'm marking this that it's 1 yard. I put it on my magazine board. 1 yard always starts in the center of my magazine board, so it rolls nicely up. And then vintage prints, I cannot, well, maybe I can reach. I could get that in there. Come on. And there we have it. My vintage print is on the vintage shelf. This one's vintage too, I can tell by looking at it. Let's see if it has a date on it. Probably not. Sometimes they didn't date these things. Well, it's a VIP fabric. So that was like Joann's. And this is also a lot of yardage folded the wrong direction. So to press it the right direction. So I'm going to start by pressing it first, then I'm going to align it. This is a border print, by the way. So you just would cut out the borders when you do it or use it. So if I find a quilt that has these fabrics in it or make something, I can cut a 1/4 inch away from either side of each of these strips and make borders with it. And it's about the right length too. The book is right here. You have to tip the camera down to put it on the screen. Yeah, the lighting is not picking it up. Magic Numbers Quilting. That is what it's called. Let's see if the back has any other information. Nope, but it does have a QR code. If you want to scan said QR code right now. Hopefully I'm holding it still enough. I doubt it though, because I am a shaky person. So that's what it's called. Magic Numbers Quilting. We'll just set that right there. I'm going to take a sip of water though. All right, now to press all this, and then we're going to fold it. I'm going to assume this is like 2.5 yards. Yeah, I definitely am very picky about putting fabric with creases. So I have to get all these creases out because I want it folded nicely. I want to be able to just grab it off the shelf and cut it, you know? If that makes it that I'm very OCD, then so be it.
With all these fabrics, do you ever just say no, don't like it all?
There have been a few fabrics in the past that I have gotten that people have sent me, and yeah, I didn't like it and I passed it on. So, but this is cute. This is like bandanas lined up. I like this one. I also like vintage fabrics, so don't know why, I just do. Some of them are like super old, and most people be like, especially Scott, he'll say, ew, that's really, are you sure you want to keep that? I'll be like, yep, because I'm going to make something with all these vintage fabrics one day. Or more than something, because I have enough to make like 10 projects probably.
Well, the old school country patterns are cool.
Yeah.
The old school flower patterns look like wallpaper.
Yeah, he says the old school country patterns are cool, but the ones, old school flower fabrics, he says look like wallpaper. Look like old people, not old people like, you know what I mean, but like old 1960s and 50s wallpaper. He doesn't like that look. It's not modern enough.
When would you choose to use vintage fabric as opposed to new fabric?
When would I choose to use vintage opposed to new? Well, whenever I have a pattern that looks like it needs vintage fabric. I've actually done a few with vintage already. And in the beginning, I made a lot because I had a lot of vintage fabric in the beginning. Because when I first started quilting, I bought from an estate sale from a lady who had been quilting since like the 1950s. And she had loads of fabric. So I bought a ton of fabric from her. Well, from her family because she had passed away. But I had a thing for going to estate sales and getting fabric in the beginning. And I bought lots and lots of vintage fabric. Okay, so I'm going to line the selvages, and then I'm going to do the center of my fabric. So it's hanging on both sides. I'm going to center it, and then I'm going to do my little thing to get it nice and square. Then I'll lay that center down, and then work my way, holding the fabric so that I don't shift it to the other end. This is how I do the lots of yardage to get it nice and square, properly squared. I do cut down some of the big pieces. I don't always keep them big. I cut them into 10-inch squares, and then if I can't get 10-inch, I go next to 5, and then so on and so forth. All right, so that's nice and square now. Now I'll go through and press a crease in it to keep it square so that it doesn't shift. Just going to stick that right there because we don't want it to shift. And everything's staying nice and square. I'm going to make sure along the way, and it's staying pretty square. Nothing has shifted. So the only reason the big ironing board works perfect for this kind of stuff, because it perfectly keeps it. Like, because I can lay the whole piece of the yardage on the ironing board in there in the other room. All right, now for another fold. So we're going to fold I usually like to have the print's name on the outside. So I'm going to flip it this way, like this, lining that fold up, making sure that's not bowed. I also look at the fabric and I could see the line on it, to make sure that it's nice and square. So I'm just going to slide that down. You can tell just by lining it up if it's square or not, because it's landing at that same position across the whole entire fabric. So that whole top piece is perfectly aligned. Then I'll just kind of straighten it away from the ironing board the rest of the way, and then create the second crease, and then measure it. Like I said, it's probably 2.5 yards. which is perfect for doing borders on a bigger quilt. I should do a video on how not to burn yourself while not being able to place the iron down, huh? I have to hold it in my hand. Oh, look at that. Stayed great the whole way. All right, let's see how much is here. It's off right there on that end. It's kind of crooked, but I'm going to leave it because this is long yardage. So we have 1 yard. Right there. Keep my finger there. This is just an about. That's 2 yards. Oh, look at that. More than 2.5. And wow, 2 yards and 34.5 inches. So I'm just going to put 2 yards and 34 inches. And yes, I write the inches on here. 2 yards, 34 inches, which is 3/4 of a yard, but who's counting? I just know by inches because I do write inch on things. Put my little tag on here and then roll it up. And I'm going to start from this end because that's what's hanging off. And again, I'm putting it on magazine board, which is the 8.5 by 11 inch boards, not the smaller version. Somebody came to say hi. Yep, he can be seen. Say hi, Thumper. There we go. Now he's on, so he can kind of be seen. It's the lighting is. There he is. I could see him. I could see him. Once you're in front of the, no, you're too high. You're too low now. He's done. He's done. He's fighting it.
He's done.
And then I also get people who send me packaged yardage. I do the same procedure, except I don't really have to press it as much because it's pre-packaged fresh off the bolt. So I open these and put them. I also, because these aren't marked with how many yards are on here, which is kind of weird. Most companies mark the yardage. So I'm going to go ahead and probably 2 yards, 2.5, 3. Is this 3 yards? Wow, this seems like a lot. We're going to see how much there is now by folding it in half. Lay that there on that end. Yeah, this is 3 yards right here. At least. So there's 2 yards. And if this lands at 18, yep, 3 yards. So that's 3 yards right there. I'm going to assume that this one is 3 yards as well, because it looks like the same amount. I'm just going to fold it and see. These are Wilmington prints, it looks like. Yep. Yeah, that's exactly the same. So I'm going to mark these as 3 yards because that's what's on them. So I'm going to grab 2 magazine boards. I'm going to write 3 yards on 2 of my things. So I do this at the beginning, but sometimes when I put my bolts away, I forget to remeasure and put a new sticky note on it with how much is on it. But I definitely, pro tip, if you like fabric and you have shelves you want to put it on, and then you go to choose your fabric, if there's nothing to say how much is there and you're looking for 1.5 yards specifically for a project, you're not going to know which one has 1.5 yards on it unless you've measured how many times around this is 1 yard. I'm not inclined to remember that. So instead I put these sticky notes on here. So that way I know when I need 3 yards for a project, I'm going to go straight for the ones that have 3 yards on it. I'm not even going to bother looking at any other fabric. I'm going to look at the tags and go, oh, that says 3 yards. Is this going to work? So pro tip, mark your yardage. If you're going to be bolting it like this, you know, on these magazine boards or on the smaller ones, which are the comic book boards. And make sure that you can see your tags sticking out. All right, so I'm going to fold and press in half. I like to have the brand of the fabric sticking on the outside. And I do a soft press on off the bolt yardage. I don't do a hard press, if that makes any sense. But I like to see the brand, because sometimes I have the matching brand fabric for I have the matching yardage for like a layer cake or jelly roll. So I just do a soft fold like this, just so that it lays flat on the shelf. And try to make sure that everything's straight. It already has a crease in it from being on a bolt anyway, so technically I'm not doing any extra to the fabric besides one extra fold. As long as it's laying nicely on the shelf, that's all that matters. All right, grab one of these, put it right there, and bolt it up. And then I can see that this says Wilmington Prints on it. And this will go with feather fabric. So wherever feathers are on my shelf, that's where this fabric will get put. But right now I can't see all of my shelves. So I just make a stack right here next to where I know that they end up sooner or later. Because I can't see them. Later, Scott will move the mattress out of the way and I'll put the fabric on the shelf where it goes. But right now it just goes like that on a stack that I make. Right. Just going to come here off the end and line this up as best as possible the rest of the way. Just do a soft fold on it. I'm not adding any steam. I'm just giving it a nice little press. If you don't press it, then you end up with, it seems like more on the shelf and you can't fit as much because it's not nicely pressed down, if that makes any sense at all. If it's pressed down just a little bit, then it helps it stay flush on the shelf and you can get more fabric bolted up on your shelves. So just a slight crease. All right. And just line this up and roll it up. This one will go with like triangles or geometric. I have a whole pile of geometric fabrics. So this will go with geometric. All right, see? Nicely bolted up. I don't put more than 5 yards on here. I really don't like putting 4 yards on these, but I will, because 5 yards or more go on the big bolts, which are up on the tops of the shelves. Well, hello there, Mr. Get in my way. How what? Damon and Gabby are great. At least as far as I know. They're both working. Gabby got a better job, and she likes it more than her old job. And therefore, she's doing a lot better. And Damon, he's at the same job, but he likes his job, so. All right, I'm pulling more fabric out of the last of everything out of this box. Okay. Let's see what we got here. So now I'm down to pressing bagged up stuff and chunks, which these chunks get cut down. So that's what I'm going to do. So I nicely press these and then cut them down. And this one feels like flannel, so this is going to go in the flannel pile. Actually, that one's flannel, so that one just gets pressed and put in the flannel pile, which is way over here on the other side of the room. Alexa is good. She's just been drawing up a storm. And Maxine is good, just working. Maxine actually, Gabby and Maxine work at the same place. So they both work together now. Which is good, because Maxine helped Gabby get the job at where she's at. As a reference, I guess, is the word for it. So I have some batiks here that are strings. I'm just going to make sure that they're nicely trimmed for my string bin, because I like my strings to be pressed and cut straight. I do not like my strings. See how this goes from wide to skinny and back to wide again? I don't like my strings like that. I like my strings all one size. That way I don't have to fuss with it when I put my string quilts together. Is this flannel too? Oh yeah, that's flannel too. This is going to go in my flannel pile, and it doesn't even look like it needs pressed. We got some pre-cut squares here, some more strings. I'm going to get these big pieces out of the way first. Then I'll start working on these littler pieces. So this looks like fat quarter size, is it? No, it is not. So it's going to get cut down because it's not quite a fat quarter. So I start with, like I said, I start with 10-inch squares, and then I move on with the numbers. But since lately I've been cutting 6-inch squares, one of these will become 2 10-inch squares and some 5s. The other one will become 6.5-inch squares and whatever smaller sizes I get from that. So I guess I'll take you to the cutting mat so that you can see me cut these. Let me get a couple more pressed real quick, and then we'll do a little bit of cutting, and then we can be done. Like, these are already sewn together pieces. I just press them and they go in a different pile of already sewn together. There's quite a few of these in here, and it looks like they were 2.5-inch, so I can cut them down into 2.5-inch subcuts and then piece them together as blocks. And then they will go in my orphan block drawer. Come on. Stay flat. I press it flat and then I throw it across the room and it doesn't stay flat. Yeah, see, these can be cut down. Some of these are already squares, so these could actually, depending on their size, go in my orphan block drawer. Yeah, this one's missing a strip. I'll go through those later. But just letting you know that's what I do. So here's some string pieces already together. Again, I can cut them down and sew them or whatever. Here's a whole slew of this. It's all the same. Look at that. Okay, that's flannel. Here's a chunk piece. Let's iron this chunk piece so it can get cut down. That looks like 6.5-inch squares already. So I'm going to keep all those together because that's all the same fabric. Oh, here's some more of it too. Right here, there's some more string pieces. Here's some random blocks. So here's a block right here that's not fully finished. It already has a side on it, but I leave it just like that. And I will press them and stick them in my orphan block drawer. And when I make my orphan quilt finally, which eventually I will get to. It'll be a giant puzzle quilt is what it'll be. Then I will be able to get a nice big quilt out of it. How am I feeling? I've been having really bad back and neck pain lately. Not sure why or what's happening, but at first I thought it was the pillow, but it turns out it's not the pillow, it's just me. Yeah, I got a new pillow at the 99-cent store. It is a CBD pillow, and it's supposed to be, it smells like marijuana. I just got to say that out loud. It really smells like it, but it's a CBD pillow, supposedly supposed to be good for, like, you know, what is the word for it? Helping you sleep and stay asleep. Well, I'm going to tell you right now, it's not helping. Here's some more blocks. I'll do the blocks later. Right now, let's cut some fabric. Yeah, see, here's some just random blocks. So the person that sent all these will end up in my orphan quilt. Here's some blocks half sewn together as well that are all camo. Look, Scotty, camo fabric. Whole ton of it. Obviously, because I opened it on a mail opening a long while ago. I was just seeing if there's any more big pieces in here. And there is not. So
Gray?
It's the gray camo and the regular.
Oh, you don't see the gray often.
Yeah.
This is the old version.
Yeah. All right, I'm going to leave this like this and go over here.
They put them together, the gray and the green. Yeah, the green's the old version.
All right, guys, we're going to go to the cutting area, carefully moving the camera. Here we go. Just a few more minutes. We're going to cut some of this up so I can show you guys how I do this. So I make room on the cutting table. I'm going to put these behind me, even though they're nicely pressed. We're going to start with these strings. Just going to pull them one at a time. I'm going to fold them where it doesn't have a crease at the top. I literally just take my ruler, and look, I use a pink Alpha cutter in here. I line up the line on the fold, and I literally cut off in less than 1/8 of an inch. I just straighten the fabric so that it's nice and straight for my string bin. It doesn't matter what size it is as long as it's equal. That's, you know, just how I am. So I have a nicely cut string. I know I put a lot of effort into this whole strings and stuff, but I like my strings the way I like my strings. Here's another one. I'll line it up nicely. Make sure there's no crease or anything on it. Line up the thingy. Cut it straight. Go to the other side and cut it straight. Look at this one's like 1 3/4. Nope, less than that. No, my solids go in the strings too. Some of them, not all of them, but some of them do. Which is behind me. Sorry, my string bin is behind me. All right, here is a scrap. First, I start by squaring up this edge. Once that edge is square, I'm going to square this little edge right here. So I'm going to use this one I just squared up at the top, line that up. And now it looks like I'm going to get a 4-inch piece from this right here. So I'm going to go ahead and line this up using the cutting mat. And I'm going to go right here to 4 inches and 4 inches right there. I'm going to cut, move that away, and cut. So now I have a 4-inch square for my 4-inch square pile. Then I see what else I can get. Right here is 1.5 inch. So I'm going to go ahead and cut 1.5. It's already got a square edge on one side. I'm going to switch to the smaller one. Get 1.5. 1.5, and I won't get 1.5 there, but I will get a 1-inch square. So I'm just going to line up. And yes, I cut 1-inch squares. For those that didn't know, I'm crazy like that. So 1 inch, we got 1.5 inch pile. Move these out of the way. All right, what do we got left here? I have a nice straight edge here, so we're going to use that to see what we got here. It's not 2.5, but I can get 2-inch squares from this. So I'm going to line it up. And I got 2 straight edges now. Just make sure this one is, oh yeah, it is square. Okay. I knew I cut it. I'm going to cut 2-inch squares. Once I can't get 2 anymore, I'll go to 1.5, and then the rest becomes garbage. So I got 2 more 2-inch. So from that piece, I got a 4-inch, 3 1.5-inch cuts, and then I got 1 1-inch and 2 2-inch squares from that weird shaped piece. These are already squares. So what I do is, that one's kind of smaller. I'm going to stack them up on top of each other. I'm going to go for the closest number between all of them at the same exact time. So I'm just lining up 2 edges. Oh, my ruler holder is. Yeah.
When you get a chance.
Oh, yes, right there. That is my ruler holder. So it has, that's the top. It's got the curve on the top. And then it has however many slits you can see right there. And it fits nicely on this little table where I cut my scraps. Perfect, right? So it holds 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 rulers. All right. I can get 4.5-inch squares out of this. So I'm going to go ahead and cut. This is a 4.5-inch square. My little OmniGrid. So I'm going to cut 2 sides. And I stacked them all at the same time. So turn it. Get that little piece off of there. And then reline my little 4.5-inch ruler up. And there's 5 or so pieces. 5 4.5-inch squares, just like that. So those, I'm going to put them in their pile because it's over here. Put my 4-inch over there as well. Okay. I try to keep putting the rulers back each time. I'm trying to learn that, so I'm not leaving them all on the table. All right, here's 2 squares right here. They look to be already, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.25. So these are going to be 6-inch squares because 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, yep. We're going to get 6-inch squares out of this. So this one is a 6.5-inch ruler. So I'm going to pull this one down. I'm going to line it up, make sure that I'm cutting both pieces at the same exact time. Turn them around and line this up on the 6. And this will become 4 at a time, flying geese. So there's 2 squares right there. And my 6-inch pile, my 6.5-inch pile, and my 2.5 by whatevers, they don't have a box yet. I gotta find 99-cent stores closing here, and we went back thinking that the boxes would still be there because they had a whole heck of a lot of them. The tubs that have the lids that I like. But no, guess what? They were all gone by the time we went back. So somebody bought all of those, which kind of sucks for me because I really, really liked them. All right, so I'm going to cut this one. I'm just going to use my ruler, line it up at 4 inches because this was one I already discussed. That will be 4-inch squares. And I have a trash can next to me that I seem to miss every time I throw something into it. I'm going to cut the selvage and the funky piece off the end and then turn it around and subcut to 4-inch squares. And I don't stack them all right side up either. If I cut multiple layers of something, I actually just leave them fold, one facing one way and one facing the other. Here was a fold. I'm going to press that out since the iron is still on. And I'm going to cut away a 4-inch, and then that'll leave me with almost 1.5 inch. Let's see right now. Oh, nope. We're going to just cut it down to 1 inch and subcut into 4 1-inch squares. It's really nice having the rulers like literally right here in front of me All right, and for a fact, that one is also, okay. So I got 4 1-inch squares out of that. And if before you ask, yes, I use 1-inch squares. If you go to the 4-patch plus video, I use that pattern to use up 2.5 or 1-inch squares and 1.5 inch and 2.5 and so on and so forth. All right, I'll line this one up. We're going to see how many inches we can get. This is 7, so we'll get a string off of here and probably 3 6.5-inch blocks. So I'm going to go ahead and straighten one side. That way I have a nice edge to go on. Line this up on a line because I have to use the ruler for this one. So that's lined up on there. We're going to go 5 6.5. Oh yeah, we'll get a string off of here. Look at that. So this is how I manage everything that people send me or afterwards with my quilts that I make, all the after scraps and stuff. This is what I do with everything. It comes in here to be chopped up into something else. And I'm going to get a 1 1/8 inch, no, 1 1/4. Cut and packaged layer cakes? No. I cut them for myself to make blocks, tester stuff. And or I can make a whole quilt times 10 out of how many layer cake squares I have. So there's a string. We're going to turn this, cut this edge right here, get rid of that selvage, line it up on a line again.
What's your favorite brand of ruler?
My favorite ruler of all of my rulers are my Quilters Select, and then I love my Missouri Star rulers. I want to get the 10-inch square of the Missouri Star one. I already have the 2.5 by 8, and then I have this one is 5-inch by 15. I actually love these rulers, but when it comes to like my Quilter Select are the best. That's 6, and that's a half. Right there. My cutting mat is really ruined, so it's really hard to line this up. So there's 2 6.5-inch squares, and I'm going to get one more right now. Once I open this up, I'm going to get rid of that crease real quick. Wasn't very prominent. It was just from folding it. I'm going to slide this right here. And actually, this is a 6.5-inch ruler. So technically, I can just do this right here. So there's that. And now I can get a 2.5 by 6.5-inch piece for that pile off the rest. So I can't see 2.5 on that very well. So I'm just going to cut a 2.5-inch strip off of here. Look at that. So now I have a 2.5 by 6.5 and 3 6.5-inch squares. Look at that. My piles are just getting bigger. I'm going to be able to make more than one quilt for sure out of all those blocks from that book. Next. Again, this one's going to be 6.5 and a string probably. Cut one straight edge. Line it up on a line. Right there. I just use the cutting mat. Oh, I thought it was down. Sorry. So I lined it up on a line. This is 5, that's 6, and this is the half. I thought I put it back down when I showed the rulers. Oops, my bad. And then I get a string out of this because it's not quite 1.5, but it is 1 1/4. So that'll go in my string bin. That's garbage. And then I don't think this is 2 6.5-inch squares worth, but we're gonna lay it on here, line it up and cut, and then grab this 6.5. Yeah, we'll get 1, and then the rest will be the strips, 6.5 by 2.5. So one of those. And 2 of these. Or, see, like I have so many different piles, I could also make this There's not 3.5, but I can do a 3-inch. Watch this. We're going to do 3-inch, turn it, do 5-inch because I have a 3x5 pile. And then here's 1.5 right here. Since it was 3 inches, I'm going to get two 1.5-inch from this end, just like that. So two 1.5. One for my 3x5 pile, one for my 2.5 by 6.5, and one for my 6.5. All from that little piece. A Quilt Works pattern. I probably have. I've done a lot of patterns. All right, I'm putting this in my pile. Let's get to this big piece. Show you how to cut. I cut these. So again, it's not quite a fat quarter. See, not quite a fat quite a fat quarter. So you can see, but there is, if I measure this right here, let's see, there's 10-inch square at least and 5-inch. So we're going to go with 10 inches first and then 5s. And I'm going to do it from both of these because there's 2 of these. So I'm going to cut the end first, nice and straight. Flip it around. Very carefully. Line it up on my line. Nice and neat. Perfectly on that line. And I'm going to come over to the 20 because I laid it on the 10. My strings are 3/4 of an inch. That's the skinniest I'll cut. And then we got 5s right here. Let's line this up. Get some 5s. And then this is that 2 inches worth? No. Nope. We're just going to put this in the strings at 1 7/8. All right. Since my 5s are literally right here, I'm just going to go ahead and cut the 5s first, and then I'll cut the 10. So I straightened out that edge. So there's 2 5s, 4 5s, and ooh, is that a 1-inch strip? That's a 1-inch strip. So I'll cut this later, but I'm just showing you there's 4 5-inch square, 1-inch squares there. 4 5-inch squares here. And 2 10 inches will come from this. I'm just lining up a line here and a line here to straighten it up. The shortest I cut my strings, this doesn't go in my string bin. This will get cut down into 5-inch strips. The shortest my strings are like 8 inches. Yeah, they're like 8 inches in length. I don't go any shorter than that for the bin because a lot of the times I cut 5-inch, but they have their own area, my cutoffs from that. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead, cut my 2 10-inch squares real quick. And then again, I have a 1-inch strip right here by 10 inches, which will go in the string bin. So I don't have to worry about cutting this into 1-inch squares. That'll just go into the string bin. And here's 2 10-inch squares from that. So 2 10s, 4 5s, and a 1-inch by 10-inch string and a 1-inch by 5-inch cut. That'll give me some 1-inch squares. So let me go put these in their piles and cut one more. And I just want to say that I have this. Actually, let's just use it real quick because I have it. I got a AccuQuilt die for 5-inch squares. So just going to bring my strip down here and cut it about 5 inches. We're just going to pretend that it's about 5 inches right here. Huh? No, it's fine. I have that way up there, which is completely out of my way, but I'm going to go ahead now and put these through my little go die. So I'm going to line my about 5-inch piece on here nicely. Put my little cutting mat on here. And this is how I've been cutting a lot of the 5-inch squares. pull away this edge, and here I have 4 5-inch squares already, just like that. See? Ta-da! But I only have this baby go, or else I would cut, 10-inch squares. So I don't have the bigger one for that. And I don't really need it either because I don't use this that often. And then this piece right here is a 1-inch square. No, it's not. So that's garbage. That's the only thing about the AccuQuilt that I don't like, is that it does waste fabric. But that's okay, because this was all scraps anyway. So let's cut these 2 10-inch squares, and then we'll start getting off of here. So this was pre-cut right here on this side. I'm just going to line it up on a line, because I cut it, nice and straight to at least throw the about sizes in the AccuQuilt. I'm going to cut 10-inch strip right there. And then this little piece right here is going to turn into a string that's 1 1/4. Let's see. Right there. So there's a string for the string bin. And then turn this, cut this nice and straight, lining it up between the lines. I got both. Line it up on the 10. Right there, right there. This is an old cutting mat, by the way, so there are gouges in here like crazy, so I had to have a new blade in this rotary cutter to even cut in here. And that's not even a good enough string, so I got some 10-inch squares out of that. Look at that. So all of my stuff is getting cleaned up and cut. And there's a little bit of a fold right there. Let me get rid of that lovely crease so I can go put it in my pile. All right. So there we have it. I'll just turn you guys right here for a moment. All right. Any questions or anything? Because I'm going to go ahead and start getting off of here so that I can take a nap. Because I fully, firmly, 100% believe in naps. They are 100% required to live our daily lives. I got here late. How do you keep your backing fabric on bolts or folded? Backing fabrics like the 108 by 108, my 3 yards, those are actually folded on the bottom shelf. Those don't get bolted because I don't have the room from the top of the shelf. Here, I'll show you real quick. Up there, that's where the bolts go. Notice they almost touch the ceiling. It's like the perfect height. Well, I don't have the room for the 108 bolts because they're kind of taller than the regular with the fabrics. Just bought the book from Amazon. Awesome. All right, guys, I'm going to go ahead and get off of here if there is no questions and go take my nap. And then I'm probably not going to come back in here later because I've done enough today. I did a lot so far today. I got almost 2 full hours of work in here done today, which is good. All right, everyone. Well, thank you guys all for hanging out, and I'll see you Sunday, because Sunday we are starting a baby clothes quilt. And we're going to just work on that every Sunday until it's done. So, baby clothes quilt, here we come on Sunday. See you guys. Bye. Ooh.